Hey, what's good? It's Cadillaktrackz. This is quick tip 135. Today's quick tip is about recording note repeat and also chords into Fruity Loops from Machine. This is something that I haven't been able to figure out how to do until this morning. I was reading this article about some guy asking how he can record note repeat and chords into Logic, and he was saying that he's watched a million videos and tried, and he can't figure it out. And I came to that conclusion a long time ago that I couldn't figure it out, and it really can't really be done because the way Machine is set up. But I did figure out a way finally how to do that, so I want to share that with y'all. And after doing some searching around and looking, I was able to open up Machine, and I started messing around with it, and I figured out a way to do it. So I wanted to share this with everybody. This video is gonna probably aggravate a lot of people because it's super complicated. It takes me a long time to explain, and it's super complicated, and that's it, man. So I'm just gonna show you how I did it, and you can use these steps and method to try to get it to work on your system. All right, so the first thing that's required or needed is I have an internal loop, an internal MIDI port. It's called Loop B internal. You can look that up online. It's an internal MIDI port. It gives me an extra MIDI port in my computer. You can see in Fruity Loops right here, I have the output and the input set to the same port, port 2. You may or may not want to have that set up like that. It's just the way I set it up. Learning how to use Loop B is hard. It's a task in its own. It took me forever just to figure out. They don't have any good instructions. There's no good videos on it. It's weird. So once you have the Loop B set up and working, what I do is I use MIDI out. MIDI out is how you send MIDI in and out of Fruity Loops. That's what it's there for. It sends MIDI and a lot more information in and out of Fruity Loops. So if you have a device or something you want to control or play it with Fruity Loops, you need to learn how to use the MIDI out function. So what I've done is I've set the internal port, the MIDI port, the internal port. You can see it's set to port number 2. You have tons of ports. If I go up, and goes all the way up to port 255. It's hard to even explain how the ports and channels and all that work, but that's how it is. And what I've done is since my internal MIDI port is port 2, I went ahead to Machine right here in the settings, and I put the output port on 2. So it's sending MIDI out to that same port. This input port you may or may not disregard. You actually can disregard that. If you want to send the MIDI back to Fruity Loops, back to Machine, you need to set this MIDI port to the same MIDI port on Machine input port. So basically, I've set it up like this. You can use that or take that into account. And the way it works is that when you have Loop B looks like this. It usually is off by default. When I push this mute button, it turns on. So when I unmute it, it turns on. But when I'm not using it, it's just not there. It's a mute, so it doesn't exist. But when you want to use it, you just unmute it. And the way it works is that it'll record. Now that I have it set up, I can record the audio coming out of Machine back into Fruity Loops. The way Loop B works is that whatever channel I have selected right here, the little green icon, that's the channel that it's going to send the MIDI back into. So if you have a device like this Machine right here, and I'm recording the MIDI out, all I need to do is push record on Fruity Loops and then push play, and it's going to start to record whatever MIDI I play, and it's going to send it back into the system. But if you have the same channel or the same device selected that you're recording, it's just going to make a loop. It's going to send the MIDI out, and it's going to go right back in the Machine. And it's going to crash and it's going to fail. And I'll go ahead and I'll just show you what it does right here. It just crashes because you're sending the MIDI out and then right back into the same device. And this is what it will do right here. And I don't even so you can hear it. It just went and it just staticked up. And I'll try it again. So what'll happen is it'll basically shut down, or it'll close the port because you routed it wrong. If the routing's wrong and you're trying to send the MIDI right back into the same device you recorded it out of, it'll just make a big feedback, MIDI feedback. It'll sound like static, and it'll shut down and it'll mute the port. So I'll go ahead and I'll unmute it again. Anytime you record using the Loop B, you have to make sure that you have a different device selected right here in Fruity Loops with the little green icon. So if I have it on Maschine and I push record, it's going to feedback loop and it's going to crash. But if I put it on the MIDI out, it's going to record that right back into MIDI out. So I'll go ahead and I'll select the MIDI out right there. And I can go ahead and I can note repeat on my controller. And I want to show y'all something. When I hit, let me just show you something real quick. When I hit a button on the way it's set up like this, you can see that it triggers this first pad. I'm hitting the first pad. It triggers the first pad, and it also triggers another pad. And I see now that whatever channel I have this set up on is what pad or what sound it triggers. So I just switch this down to channel 2 now, right? And now when I push it, it hits the kick and this snare, right? So it's like this first pad is triggering which sound is going to be hit, but I don't actually want them both to play. So what I've actually been doing is I'll just turn the kick down, the volume, because I don't want it. I just wanted it to trigger, not to actually play. So, and I messed up again. You got to make sure that when you push it, you're not on the same device. So let me go ahead and select the MIDI out. Now that I'm on MIDI out, when I push it, it's still playing the kick and snare, but I only hear the snare now because I turned the kick down. And that's exactly what I can do now. Now I can push note repeat on my Maschine, make sure that I'm still on the MIDI out channel, and I'll just go ahead and now record some rolls, and I'll push stop. So I basically just recorded some notes, and you can see what it did. Bam, it recorded them right into Fruity Loops, and here they are in Fruity Loops. And you can also turn auto quantize on. They'll all make sure they record all on time and stuff like that. And so you can see what I did. I basically triggered it from this channel and it hit that channel. Now, like for example, if I push playback, it's sending the MIDI right back into right back into Maschine, just like I have it set up on my template if you watch my channel ever. So we have it set up just like that. And as you can see also, if I go to the MIDI out and I change the channel, it'll change what channel is being triggered from Maschine. So that's how you can record the snare or hi-hat rolls in the Maschine. Sorry about the long video. When I get done, I could just turn the kick back up. Since I'm using this pad to trigger it, it actually plays the kick still. And I want to show you something. The way I'd set that up is by going into the MIDI output, and you can see the way I've set it up is on this first pad, the one I'm using. You can see Maschine selected. On the first pad that I'm using right here, I went ahead and I changed the destination to host, which would be Fruity Loops. All these other ones, they're all set to none, and they're all on different channels. So I guess that's why this different channel, the numbers might not match up exactly, but switching different channels, switch to a different sound. And all you need to do is put that first sound on host, and that way that sound can trigger the other sounds. So very confusing, complicated. It's really easy once you break it down, but you got to get through those steps. But that's how you record the note repeat. I can do the same thing with chords right here. I just did it a second ago. Like for example, if I push chord mode on here, right here, I just push chord mode, and even though I'm still playing drum samples, you can see right there it's hitting the chord. And if I push record on Fruity Loops, and then bam, you can see right here, up here, right here in the piano roll, it just recorded the chords right there. So if that was an instrument instead of the little hi-hat, it would have played the chords. So that's how you can use the chord mode and the note repeat feature. Basically, you need Loop B to record the MIDI and send it right back into Fruity Loops, and then get all the extra details worked out. So this Cadillaktrackz. Make sure you check out my other quick tips, and also make sure you check out my custom MK3 template. Sorry for the video being so long, but as you can see, it's super hard just to explain how to do that. So just watch the video and see what I did, and go ahead and follow those steps. Until next time, one.